Have you ever heard a sound so quiet it tears your world apart? For me, it was the barely audible click of a phone screen locking at 2 in the morning, followed by the rustle of sheets as my wife, Jenna, rolled over, pretending to be asleep. The blue light had been painting a ghostly mural on the ceiling of our Chicago bedroom, private screening I wasn't invited to. I lay there, heart hammering against my ribs, staring into the oppressive darkness. Her breathing was too even, too practiced. The air in the room, once our sanctuary on the 34th floor overlooking Lake Michigan, suddenly felt thin and sharp, like breathing in microscopic shards of glass. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my life was a carefully constructed lie, and the proof was sleeping peacefully just inches away. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started with the dog. We'd adopted him a year ago, a scruffy golden retriever mix. I wanted to call him Buddy or Max, something simple. But Jenna was insistent. "He looks like a Marcus," she'd said, her voice uncharacteristically firm. I didn't think much of it. It was a strange name for a dog, but I loved her, and it made her happy. Now the name echoed in my mind, a cruel joke I was only just beginning to understand. Marcus. Mark. The pieces began to click into place with agonizing slowness. The late nights, she claimed, were work dinners on Rush Street. The sudden obsession with a new gym in the West Loop. The way she'd started guarding her phone like it was a priceless artifact. She'd become distant, a beautiful, cold sculpture of the woman I married, and I'd try to talk to her, to bridge the growing chasm between us. Her words were like polished stones, smooth, hard, and deflecting. "You're being paranoid, honey," she'd say, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Work is just stressful. The villains always feel untouchable in the beginning. They move through the world wrapped in a cloak of arrogance, convinced of their own cleverness, and the fool was drowning." One night, after she'd gone out with the girls, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. Not for a bar, but for the Park Hyatt on Chicago Avenue. Dinner for 2. Credit card slip signed with a flourish. The total made my stomach clench. It was more than our first month's rent. I sat on the floor of our walk-in closet, the receipt trembling in my hand, and I finally broke. The sobs were silent, racking my body in the dark, surrounded by the scent of her perfume on the clothes she no longer wore for me. That was the end of the loyal husband. In his place, a strategist was born. The next morning, I was a new man, a ghost in my own home. I bought a voice-activated recorder, a tiny black sliver of technology, and tucked it deep under the passenger seat of her Range Rover. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop, who operated out of a dingy office in River North.
Nice.
He didn't ask questions, just took my money and nodded. The evidence started pouring in. Photos of Jenna and Mark leaving a boutique hotel. Recordings of their conversations, filled with cheap promises and mocking laughter at my expense. They called me the warden. Predictable, contemptible. Each piece of proof was a fresh stab in the heart, but I didn't bleed anymore. I was forging it all into a weapon. My lawyer, a shark in a $3,000 suit, advised me to play the long game. "We don't just want a divorce," he'd said, his eyes gleaming. "We want to dismantle her." Jenna had come from money, but her father's company was now her company. She was the CEO, the face of a brand built on family values. The irony was sickening. We set the trap. The company's annual charity gala was in 3 weeks, a massive event at the Field Museum. It was her crowning achievement, the night she paraded her success in front of the city's elite. It would be the perfect stage. In the days leading up to it, I played the part of the devoted, slightly clueless husband. I even went with her to pick out a dress, a stunning emerald green gown that cost a fortune. "You look beautiful," I told her, the words tasting like ash. She beamed, oblivious. The night of the gala was a blur of flashing cameras and fake smiles. I stood by her side on the red carpet, a ghost in a tuxedo. Mark was there, of course, a smug-looking finance bro hovering near the open bar. Jenna would occasionally shoot him a conspiratorial glance, a tiny shared smirk. I thought they were invincible. My moment came during her keynote address. She stood at the podium bathed in a spotlight, speaking about integrity and trust. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. As she reached her crescendo, the massive screens on either side of the stage, meant to be showing a corporate video, flickered. And then they came to life. The first image was a photo. Jenna and Mark kissing in the lobby of the Park Hyatt, time-stamped. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Jenna froze, her face a mask of confusion. Then the audio began to play, the recording from her car. Her voice unmistakable, laughing as she described me as sweet, but so boring. Mark's voice slurring slightly, bragging about their weekend plans. The room fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Jenna's face drained of all color. She looked out at the sea of faces, her board members, her employees, her family all staring at her with expressions of shock and disgust. She turned to me, her eyes wide with a dawning, horrified understanding. I just stood there, my expression blank, and gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. It was over. The fallout was immediate and brutal. The board fired her the next day. Her father, a man I'd once respected, refused to take her calls. She was a pariah. The divorce was swift and merciless. The prenup I'd insisted on, the one she'd laughed at, held up in court. She got nothing. Kept the condo, the assets, even the dog. The last time I saw her, she was leaving the courtroom, her face pale and drawn. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollow, empty shell. She looked at me, a question in her eyes. Why? I didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes late at night, when the city is quiet, I sit on the balcony with Marcus, the dog. He rests his head on my lap, and I stare out at the endless, glittering lights of Chicago, the city that witnessed it all. I won. I destroyed her. But the victory tastes like cold gray ash. The end.